Hi, Kathy.
Hi.
I'm Darren. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Do you want to have a seat there? Is there anything I can get you before we start? A glass of water, a coffee?
Oh, sure, water would be good, thank you.
Here you go.
Oh, thank you.
No problem. You found the office okay today?
Yeah, my mom dropped me off.
Oh, that's great. Okay, awesome. So, just before we start, I just wanted to thank you for coming in today. And I also wanted just to talk a little bit about confidentiality. So what that means is this is a safe space. When we have our discussion here today, it's going to be just private between the two of us. Now, there are exceptions to that rule. If I think you're going to hurt yourself or somebody else, then I have to report that. Or if I feel like a child in your care under the age of 18 is in danger, then I do have to report that as well. And then the only other time that would come into play would be if the courts were involved for any reason and they subpoenaed my records. I would have to share the notes of our conversation today. But
Okay.
those are the only exceptions to the rule. Other than that, it stays in here between us two. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So why don't you start off by just telling me what brought you in today?
Well, I've been doing some math, and I promised my mom that I would stop doing that, and just to get her off my back, basically, and I haven't done that, and so she drove me here today.
Okay, so mom was a little concerned and dropped you off. Okay, perfect. Well, let's start off then by, you mentioned meth. Let's start off by looking a little bit at your substance use history. So, in terms of drugs, which ones have you used then in the past?
Well, I've only, in the last couple of years, I smoked a bit of pot, but not a ton, like just mostly on weekends or
Okay.
parties. But over the last, I guess maybe about 3 months, my friends kind of encouraged me to try meth. So I only used it once the first month, and I think once the second month, but this month I've used it like already 5 times.
Oh, okay. Okay, so it's went up a bit this month.
Yeah.
Okay. And so when you have mentioned about the smoking pot, that wasn't related to any other, like how old would you have been when?
I would have been just around 15.
Okay.
I'm
And
17
You're
now.
17 now?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, perfect. So the meth has just been mainly in the last 3 months.
That's right.
Okay, I like to ask just because a lot of times when people are using stimulants such as meth, it'll be either, we look at it as what we call a primary or secondary drugs. So a lot of times, if it's a primary drug, then people will be using meth, and then they'll be using other things such as alcohol or benzodiazepines, and I'm not really hearing that from you. I'm hearing that you're, we're smoking a bit of pot before, and you're using a little bit of alcohol, but those.
Yeah, like I don't drink a lot of alcohol either, but I do have a few beer on the weekends and
Okay.
stuff, so.
Okay, so basically what I'm hearing here is that you've been using a bit of meth over the past 3 months, and it's increased this month. And then in terms of other drugs, right now and in your past, it was a little bit of marijuana here and there, and a little bit of
Yeah.
alcohol, which continues today. Is that correct?
That's right, yeah.
Okay, great. So, can you tell me, currently, you had mentioned that your mom had dropped you off. Can you tell me about your current family living situation? Like, do you still live with your mom?
I live with my mom and my dad and my younger brother,
Okay.
and I'm still going to school,
Okay.
and my father's always been kind of I don't know, maybe abusive verbally.
Okay.
And I kind of find over the last little while that's maybe been bothering me a bit more.
Could you explain that a little bit more? How when you say bothering you a little bit more?
Well, I think it's just making me a little more, like maybe down or depressed and, not feeling really good about myself.
And when you mentioned, you had stated over the past little bit, so how long would you say that's been that you felt a little bit more down?
Maybe over the last 6 months, I felt a little more down, but it's been going on. He does it to both my brother and I. He just kind of puts us down a lot.
Okay.
But I've felt it's more affecting me
Okay.
more just the last few months.
In a few months, you kind of maybe coincided when you started
Maybe.
using the drugs. It sounds like. Okay, so let's focus a little bit on the drug use. There's a couple questions that just to get some basic information, I'd like to ask if that's okay with you.
Sure.
So when you're using meth, how are you using it? Are you smoking it, or are you pill form?
No, smoking it.
Okay, so every time you've used it?
Yeah, all the times I've smoked it.
Okay, and how much on these occasions, so from what you've told me, you've had about 7 occasions
Yeah.
in the past 3 months, and how much in terms of a quantity would you be using each time?
Not a very big quantity, maybe, I think, like maybe a quarter gram.
Okay. So that would be like a standard, if you were to smoke it in a pipe, like one
One
hit
hit.
type of thing.
Yeah.
Okay. And how much does that cost?
Well, I don't really know. I know it's expensive, but so far my friends have just been sharing theirs with me, so I haven't paid for any of it.
Oh, okay. Okay. And when are you smoking it? Are you smoking it during the week, or are you smoking it on the
No,
weekend?
mostly just on the weekends, like we're at a party and stuff on Friday or Saturday night, and that's when I've been doing it.
Okay, so it's on the weekends, and so if it's been what you had noted 5 times over the past month, then so it's basically been every weekend this month.
That's right, yeah. And
Okay.
actually like 2 nights, one weekend. It's
Okay.
Friday and Saturday.
Okay. Great. So thanks for that. That helps me out a lot. There's just a few other areas that I'd like to just ask briefly about. So is there anybody else in your family currently that is a drug user, or
No,
none at all?
No.
Okay. So there's not a history of drug
No, there
use or
isn't.
drug. Okay. What about in terms of mental health, in terms of depression or personality disorders or anything like that?
no, nothing that sticks out to me.
Okay. Yeah, reason I like to ask is just because a lot of times when someone is a drug user, they do have some mental health concerns, and vice versa. And I really wanted to kind of look at that because you had mentioned that you were feeling quite down, over the past 3 to 6 months, and then you're using drugs as well. So I think that's definitely something that we'll look into further after our initial visit here today. I think
Okay.
that's important.
Mhm.
Just to if you could you tell me just a bit more? You'd mentioned that your dad's always been kind of verbally abusive and hard on you. So is that, how do you feel that's impacted your self-image or your self-esteem?
Well, I feel that it doesn't make me feel very, very good about myself, and so I just it's hurtful when when he says those things to me, and just makes me feel not good about myself.
What, could you give me an example of something that he might say to you, like?
I might say something like, "Oh, did you only do that? That's not a very good mark on your paper. You should have got more than that, or you should be studying more." Or, just negative things.
So it sounds like he can be hard on you.
Yeah.
So I just also wanted to look a little bit at a couple other factors here. Do you currently have a job?
I do. I work at McDonald's, usually just a couple of shifts on the weekend.
Okay, on the weekend, so when you're involved in your drug use. Okay, has there been any instances where you've missed work?
Actually, one day I did
You did, okay.
miss my shift.
Okay. So you missed a shift just because you were up
Wasn't
late?
feeling good,
Wasn't feeling good?
yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I appreciate the information, and it's a lot to come in here today, and I know you said you didn't want to come in. Your mom dropped you off. I can relate. When I was using drugs, my mom was really on my back and hard on me, so I can kind of appreciate where you're coming from. I did want to just ask you briefly here, are you familiar with the terms tolerance and dependence when related to drug use?
Well, I've kind of heard the terms before, but I guess dependence would mean like I'm addicted, or...
Yeah. That's a good way to put it. So dependence would be that you're using the drugs and you're getting withdrawal symptoms from not using them. And then tolerance, on the other hand, would reflect being that you're needing more of the substance to get the same desired high. So you mentioned that you've used the same amount every time, so the tolerances remain the same, but it's important to remember that, over time, if you choose to keep using here, that may increase and make things much more difficult. I also want to say I am a little bit concerned here, because you had mentioned that, in 3 months, like 2 months ago, you had used one time, and 1 month ago you used one time, and then this month you have used 5 times already. So that's quite an increase, and particularly with stimulant use, it can really rapidly increase, and it can just really quickly overtake your life. So I just want you to be mindful of that. It's certainly your choice, but I'm just trying to give you the information here. So in leaving today, I was wondering if I could give you a little bit of advice or homework, so to speak. I'd just like to provide you with some information on some of the psychological issues and the medical issues that can result from stimulant use, just so you're a little bit more knowledgeable and aware of those. Would that be okay?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, great. Well, I will get those together and send them with you today. I know we only have talked for maybe 10 minutes today. I was wondering if you'd be willing to come back and maybe we could do a little bit more of an in-depth look at the possibility of these feelings of low self-esteem and stuff or depression, related to depression.
Sure.
if that would be okay with you.
Yeah, sure, give it a try.
Okay, well, I appreciate that, because I know it's not easy to come in here, especially when you're kind of getting a push from mom and stuff, but if you'd be willing to meet with me, I think that would be great, so we could schedule another appointment.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, well, thanks again for coming today.
No worries, thank you.